So we have gotten our first proper look at Denji after the time skip, and I have to say, I'm both impressed but also quite concerned, not because I don't trust Fujimoto's writing or the direction he is taking his character, but rather because I'm concerned that we are going to see Denji go down a potentially even more self-destructive and mentally scaring path than the one he has already traveled. In this video I'd like to discuss what I think of Denji's current mental state after reading chapter 103, which to me is both insightful and gut-wrenching in its portrayal of Denji, as he is now, someone without any sort of guidance or direction in his life. Of course this, as with all art, is a subjective interpretation. You're free to think whatever you want about Denji or how Fujimoto is handling him. So while this won't be an exact review or recap of the chapter, rather I'm going to use what the chapter provides us to speak about Denji's current and potential characterization. So, first things first, before Denji even opens his mouth, the way he is drawn, with bags under his eyes, shows that, despite having the fame of being Chainsaw Man and despite having been essentially granted exactly what he had been dreaming of at the beginning of part 1, a normal stable life, or at least as much of one as can be expected, he isn't having the greatest time of it. Adding on to this fact is how when he is denied to have his say on what he thinks about Chainsaw Man, the distraught look he has between both the camera crew and the people in the public really sells that he isn't happy with the current state of things. Also, when coming into contact with Yoshida, and going to the cafe, he just seems so tired, unwilling to actually try and force Yoshida to give back the knives, forks and such, rather just shoveling his face full of cake, his eyes seemingly unfocused on what he is doing or even on Yoshida, as he manages to spray cake everywhere, when previously the idea of wasting such food would seem like a sin to him. Only when he declares that the ladies will be all over him once people find out he is Chainsaw Man does his face light up, if only partially. His eyes seem to take on an almost slightly crazed look, one which I put down to the fact he is putting so much stock into the idea of people, especially the ladies, loving him if they find out he is Chainsaw Man, but at the same time not actually believing it. Everything about the way Denji is drawn in this chapter, to me speaks of him being far less fulfilled with his life than it seemed when we left him on the end of part 1. This could of course be for multiple reasons, namely the isolation he feels, being both at the same time a world-renowned celebrity while at the same time also being essentially a nobody. So using that as a springboard, let's start talking about how Denji actually acts in this chapter. First, he acts like a sort of hype man for his alter ego, Chainsaw Man, doing his best to impress upon people the greatness of Chainsaw Man, but at the same time is also trying to highlight his own identity as Chainsaw Man without coming out and actually saying it, directly speaking out to the comments that were previously made about Chainsaw Man by other onlookers. To me this speaks to the annoyance and frustration he has been feeling with regards to public perception of him and his actions, feeling the effects of bad publicity even when he is trying to do the right thing, having his name or rather brand dragged through the mud because of no reason other than people just don't like him or trust him because of what he is. I'd call it a sort of celebrity burnout effect, just like how YouTubers can get burnt out, so, I assume, can movie stars and even anonymous superheroes like Denji here. Then there is the fact that Denji's isolation is ever present throughout the chapter. There is no signs of Naruto in this chapter, and the way in which he speaks about why he fights the devils implies to me that he is alone in the sense that he isn't actively a part of the Devil Hunter organization anymore. This isn't me saying that Naruto's gone or that Denji quit the organization, but rather that he doesn't have a strong attachment to the organization like he used to, and that just having Naruto around isn't giving him the same level of fulfillment as we expected for him moving forwards. The fact that he hasn't even seen Yoshida despite them going to the same high school, or seemingly built up any relationships strong enough to trust his identity with them speaks volumes about just how alone Denji is now. He might still have Pochito inside him, and he might technically still have people like Kobani, Naruto and Kishibe around, so he isn't as lonely as he was at the beginning of the series, but now he knows it can be so much better, which makes the loss of Aki and power, even Makima, so much more impactful on him in terms of his current self than it would have been at the beginning of the series, and not just because of the bonds they obviously formed, but because Denji was finally part of a pack like all humans tend to strive for. Now I don't know the reason why Denji isn't just telling people he is Chainsaw Man and then transforming in front of them, but I hazard a guess that it's because he is afraid and because he is falling back on primal desires to stave off the real thing he wants and the realization that comes with it. So what is Denji afraid of? Obviously, he is afraid of making meaningful connections. It's why he hasn't just told the world Chainsaw Man, because then it would crush the fantasy that the only thing stopping him from being surrounded by loving and supporting people is everyone else's stupidity, rather than the fact it's because he is too afraid to come forwards and make the first move, because he is afraid they will only like him because he is Chainsaw Man, just like Makima, or the moment he'll make that connection it will be snatched away from him, leaving yet another hole in his already broken heart and tear another chunk out of his already damaged psyche. It's better for him to just live in denial. At least that's how I feel seeing Denji come out and declare his reasons for fighting devils is to be discovered as Chainsaw Man. Now, there is something I'd like to point out. Denji doesn't seem to be going after power, at least not in the most direct way. The reason? Who can say, but I doubt he has just given up on it. But this whole stint of defeating devils and being a hero doesn't seem like it really helps with that goal, so what's going on here? Why isn't Denji up and heading straight for hell? Didn't he promise power he'd go find the Blood Devil and return them to being power? Is he waiting for the Blood Devil to reappear on Earth? We've had a time skip, a lot can happen in that time, but I wouldn't think it would be enough to completely stop Denji's idea of getting power back. Obviously this is based off of just one chapter, things could turn around immediately in the next, but even so, I just want to document my thoughts on Denji's character right here and now, so I can either look back and laugh at my foolishness later or be mildly impressed about how on track I was with my thoughts process. If I was to summarize Denji's current characterization for me, it would be that he's still just a kid running from the pain rather than facing it head on, and blaming other people for why he isn't able to make those vital connections, despite him being unwilling to try. Closing thoughts: where are Kishibe, Kobani and Naruto? Why does the Denji in this chapter seem so run down when at the end of the previous arc he seemed so built up? Either way, I've been the Anonymous Weeb and I wish you a good day or night wherever you may be. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.